Hello, my name is Sheila Wilson. I'm with the Nisqually River Education Project, and I'm going to talk to you today about watersheds and water quality so you can fill out your model that's in your water quality field journal. And you're going to follow along with me on this page to outline the different spheres in different colors on your model page and to take some notes on this note page. So make sure you have your colored pencils, markers, or crayons ready. You're going to need brown, green, black, blue, and red, and yellow if you want to add in some sunshine. So let's get started with the geosphere. You will need your brown color for this. So geo means earth. Can you say that please with me? Geo means earth, and sphere means ball. The elements of the geosphere are as follows. First of all, we're going to start with mountains and volcanoes. The geosphere also includes rocks. There are big rocks on Mount Rainier. The geosphere also includes soil, like farmland, forest land, the ground where you are standing. The geosphere includes sediment. Sediment is formed when water or wind breaks down rocks into smaller pieces. Sediment can also end up in the water. The geosphere also includes our fossil fuels like oil, petroleum, gas, natural gas, and coal. And this portion of the geosphere that we have outlined here today is a watershed. A watershed is all of the land area that drains into one common body of water. Now check your workbook, make sure you have the vocabulary terms for geosphere written here and the parts of the geosphere outlined in brown on your drawing. We are now ready to look at our next sphere, the biosphere. Bio means life. Can you please say that with me? Bio means life, and sphere still means ball. So the biosphere is all of the living components on our Earth. We're going to divide those into three categories. First of all, we'll start with plants. We call plants producers because they produce their own food. Some examples of plants include trees. Producers also include flowers and the food that we grow to eat, like carrots, lettuce, kale. Producers also include the algae that are in the water. Some of that algae is microscopic or too small to be seen. Producers make their own food through energy from the sun. Consumers will be our next term in the biosphere. Say it with me, consumers. Consumers are the animals of the biosphere. Animals eat other living things. That's why we call them consumers. Animals or consumers in the biosphere include farm animals, consumers also includes you and me, people. We're animals too. Even our pets are consumers. Wild animals, birds, and fish are all part of the biosphere. The third type of living thing in the biosphere are the decomposers. Those include things like mushrooms and bacteria. They break down dead organisms back into soil and nutrients that other organisms, like plants, can use. Let's put a mushroom right over here. Just to review, biospheres includes producers, the plants, consumers, the animals, and decomposers like mushrooms and bacteria. Next up, we're going to talk about the atmosphere. So for this portion, you're going to need your black pencil or crayon or marker. Atmo means air. Will you please say that with me? Atmo means air. The atmosphere has many layers. We're going to talk about the first layer today, which is the troposphere. You can see that word here, troposphere. It is 7 miles thick, and it has all of Earth's life, water, and weather in it. It contains the oxygen that we breathe, which is made by the plants. It contains carbon dioxide that plants take in. It also includes nitrogen gas. In fact, most of our atmosphere is nitrogen gas. And it also includes a little bit of water vapor, which makes up our clouds. Now let's look at the hydrosphere. Please find your blue marker for the hydrosphere. The hydrosphere is all of the water on the earth. Hydro means water. Can you please say that with me? Hydro means water. Now, the hydrosphere is mostly fresh or salt water. What do you think? If you said salt water, that's right. 97% of the water on the planet is salty, like in the ocean and the sea. The next largest component of the hydrosphere is ice and glaciers. On our local mountains, you can often see how white they are. That's the ice and glaciers that is forming on them. We're going to draw that in blue right here. Ice and glaciers are also on the polar caps at the North Pole and the South Pole of our planet. The next largest component of the hydrosphere is the available fresh water. That's only 1% of our water. And this is in our lakes, streams, and rivers. So I'm going to draw in our watershed a river coming right down the middle of it. And the rivers in our neck of the woods mostly drain to Puget Sound or another part of the Pacific Ocean. That leaves less than 1% of the hydrosphere that's in the atmosphere as clouds and rain. Some of the clouds are water vapor, and some of them are water liquid. Now, let's see how these things impact our water quality. When the earth is in balance, we have plenty of clean air and clean water for all living things. But sometimes people have put these spheres out of balance by introducing pollution. Where does pollution come from? Most of us, when we say the word pollution, think about litter on the ground. That's one type of pollution. But there's also pollution that's part of the air and part of the water. And it comes from two main places. It can either come from point source pollution, which is a source you can point the finger at, or non-point source pollution, which you can't point a finger at. What do I mean by this? Point source pollution is easy to identify because it comes from one point that you can point at, like a factory. Factories can emit pollution into the air, which mixes with rain and washes into our watersheds, or factories can put pollution directly into our waterways in a liquid form. The other type of pollution is called non-point source pollution. Please say that with me. Non-point source pollution. Non-point source pollution is harder to identify because it comes from so many places at once. What are some of those places? Well, if you have farm animals that are near the stream, or if you have pets like a dog that you don't always pick up after, if you know what I mean, or even if you just have a car that you drive, or if you shop at a store that gets its materials on the shelves from a truck or a train. All of these types of pollution, even the things that simply build up on our roads, or come from our houses. If you use fertilizers or weed killers in your yard, or if you live or work in a city. Because there are 4.2 million people that live in the Puget Sound region, that's too many people to point at. All of us have little things we do every day that introduce non-point source pollution into our watersheds. So, back to our original question, which do you think is a bigger issue for our water quality here where we live? Is it the point source pollution, like the factories and the industry that you can point at? Or is it the non-point source pollution, the 4.2 million of us doing all these little things every day that add up? If you guessed non-point source pollution, you are correct. The rain mixes with the air pollution, the pollution on our roads, and the waste from our yards, sometimes from our farms if we're using too many fertilizers. All of these things become storm water runoff when the rains come. So we are going to actually test our waters. You are going to get to do a science experiment at home and figure out what the pollution levels are in your local waterways. And we will share our results with scientists in our community. These scientists work for the Washington State Department of Ecology, our cities, our counties, and our local tribal communities as well. So let's talk about these water quality tests. You will get to do 2 of these tests at home. The first one is called pH. pH measures how acidic or basic the water is. Please say acidic or basic with me. Acidic or basic. Good. The changes in pH can come from this stormwater runoff. When the rain mixes with the air pollution or with the pollution on the ground and enters our waterway, it can change how acidic or basic the water is. Living things like water to be neutral or a pH of 7. The other tests we're going to do is for nitrates. The nitrates test measures how many nutrients are in the water. Now, if you're thinking nutrients are a good thing, you're right about that. But the important thing is that these nutrients stay in balance. If we have an excess of nutrients, that can be a real problem for the living things in the water, especially our friend the salmon. Salmon is a keystone species in our region, meaning that it's the key to keeping the rest of the ecosystem in balance. So the water quality in our region needs to be high to keep the salmon healthy. That means not too many nitrates. Nitrates can come from animal waste, like cows, dogs, even humans, if there's a septic tank leak or a sewage leak in our systems. So you will get to test for both of these elements, the pH and the nitrates. I hope you have fun learning about water quality and completing your journal at home and testing the water. We look forward to hearing how your tests go. Thank you for learning along with us today.